So yeah, I wanted to ask about something Tracy had Lowe said about, are we, meaning Metro, cutting everything we can cut before putting these possible service cuts on the table? So are you cutting everything you can possibly cut that wouldn't affect the riders, or looking at cutting it at least?
Yeah, like I said last budget conversation, I'll say it again today. We are doing everything we can to make it where service cuts are the last thing we do. That's what we do as an organization. We deliver service for the community, so everything is on the table, and the chair has said that multiple times. So I want to be clear: cutting $50 million of administrative costs without touching service is a very difficult thing to do, and it causes a lot of pain and discomfort in a big organization like that. So that is one thing we worked really hard on, and that's not easy to do. Secondarily, now we're looking at the capital program, and we believe we have some administrative savings we might be able to pull out there. We're going to talk about that at the November board meeting. And we're going to keep trying to manage the FY24 budget as tight as possible, and hopefully have good quarterly reports that will grow our savings to, every million's going to count. So we are managing every day, every single dollar to protect service as much as possible.
And I wanted to ask you, I learned the other day, I mean, most of your costs, you said, are fixed, and then most of that is labor, benefits, salaries, that sort of thing. So I know you have a contract coming up with ATU Local 689 next year. I mean, are you going to look for savings in that contract somehow with them, or how will that work?
Yeah, well, I can go first, then the chair, maybe. So listen, at the end of the day, you can't be an ATU member unless you're a WMATA employee. And all WMATA employees are going to be part of the solution here, and I expect labor to be part of the solution here as well, and we've had conversations with them around that. At the same time, we have a challenging hiring environment, as I mentioned. I think it's 1.9% unemployment in Maryland. So, it's not exactly, there's still a competitiveness issue with employers and employees. Also, our employees work really hard, and they work very difficult jobs, split shifts sometimes, overnight shifts in tunnels. Put themselves in the dealing with the public. The public's not necessarily in their best behavior every day, all the time. They work holidays and weekends and you name it. So we got to actually appropriately pay people for the work, good work they do as well. So we are working collaboratively. I expect that to be part of the process. Remember, we also have a short-term and a long-term challenge. Short-term is FY25. Long-term, we have a structural problem. So, we might have areas with our labor partners where we don't have a lot of gain on the short term, but we have a lot of gain in the long-term liability, or vice versa, or it's a bit of both. We all have to work together because we need this system to be valuable long-term for both us, what we deliver for the community, and for people to have good jobs that can look after their families. So I don't know, Chair, if you want to.
Yeah, I think, Tom, everyone is looking at everyone coming to the table in a collaborative spirit, and I think the general manager put it best. I mean, labor is going to be part of the solution, as is all our jurisdictional partners and other WMATA employees who are not represented.
Yep.
So I think that's best. And also, one thing I want to remind you, the $50 million cuts and other efficiencies that the general manager will likely bring forward, that is on top of cuts and efficiencies that have taken place in the last 2 to 3 years. So, just sort of keep that in mind. There's been a lot of streamlining and efficiencies within the organization already.
Yeah.
And my last question, if that's okay.
Just
and this is for my coworker Megan. And if you're prepared to comment on this, she did a story about Rashawn, the man who disappeared from Silver Spring and then was seen in the video on Metro. And I'm asking about it because we talked to his family last night, and they were concerned, saying station manager or somebody should have realized he was struggling and he has special needs and should have intervened to help out. They felt. I just wanted to see if you had any comment on that situation and wanted to say anything to the family.
Again, I'm happy to talk to the family offline if they would like to have that conversation. We're doing everything we can to support, and hopefully he can be found. And I think we gave a statement out yesterday on that. The second we were contacted, we immediately went into full forensic video analysis, tried to find everything. People have worked a lot of hours to locate video on bus, on station, train, all that kind of stuff. Montgomery County is the lead agency, and we are supporting them, and we clearly are doing everything we can to help bring him home to his family.
Is that something that if somebody has special needs, is clearly struggling, is that something where a station manager should come out and help if they see it going on?
Every moment of the day is different, Tom. So I can't make a generic statement. I don't know if the station manager even interacted with the individual was the person down the station. Like, so. I mean, what we were asked to do is here's the situation, and we immediately went right into response, trying to find video, and we are doing everything possible to connect him back to his family. We have bolos out. Every train operator, every bus operator, every station manager, every police officer has his photo, is looking for him actively. I think, like everyone else, we want to help bring him home. Yep.
Since we're
Yep.
off the budget, I'll ask two other questions and get back to the budget. Did you see these Greenpeace posters that have showed up in buses or trains? Have you seen these?
Yeah, I got a picture from the team this morning. I think we had 120 some people did vandalism on the system last night. Put up kind of guerrilla ads, if you will. They're not our ads, and they've all been removed from the system. And we're going to keep watching. And if someone continues to vandalize our system, the police are aware, and we're going to try to find out who it is, and hopefully they'll get prosecuted to the full extent of law for vandalizing the community system.
Have you ever seen anything like that before? I mean, it's
Yeah.
clearly we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's people out there that want to make a statement. Great, we appreciate that's a First Amendment right. Stop vandalizing the community's transit system and go make your statement in First Amendment ways you're supposed to out in the street.
Excellent. Other question: the Safety Commission this week had a couple of findings. You and I have chatted about it. The speed, one train going faster than it should have, and then there was a close call, 800 feet. Two trains on the same track. Just your thoughts on those two.
Yeah, well, two different things. So on the trains that, if you will, back fairly close together, the automatic train protection system prevented those trains from ever getting into contact with each other. So the system worked as it should. An employee did the incorrect thing by moving in the wrong direction, but the system prevented those trains from ever making contact. So that person will be properly retrained and dealt with. It wasn't someone did something maliciously. It was just went the wrong direction in this kind of pocket. On the speed piece, again, the system worked as it was supposed to. So we have two speeds. It's very confusing for people. The system is built to actually run at 75 miles an hour. For a variety of reasons in the past, Metro has decided that parts of our system run with a maximum of 59 and other parts run a maximum of 65. For months, we've been actually analyzing this topic because once I found out, I brought the leads of safety, operations, and infrastructure together. They're doing a whole analysis on that. We've actually proactively brought that to the WMSC months ago and explained how we wanted to actually standardize speed across the system. It's not the way I would have wanted to set it up, and it's been done piecemeal as the system got built versus thinking how the system should run holistically. But the top speed is 75 miles an hour, and there's a variability of a couple miles an hour in the system. That is the safe speed that any train could run. We've purposely put a speed limit of 59 and 65 in certain sections just to basically have an operator run at a little bit of speed. That's not a safety. A lot of that is actually comfort of ride, managing the power sections. My understanding is that originally happened because our 1000 series trains had some issue with the propulsion system and kind of burned up a bit when they went to a higher speed. So instead of actually adjusting the infrastructure correctly, we just created a rule that never dealt with the newer fleet. So we're cleaning all of that up. So the system worked as it should. It hit 75 and immediately stopped out and went backwards.
They got up to
78. So that's there's a 3 mile an hour variability in the 75 just because it's not perfect on the rounding. And then immediately, boom, and starts throttling it back. So again, the system worked as it's supposed to. We're going to go out and reset the whole system at a top max speed.
And Adam, it also highlights the importance of the work that the agency is doing to get back to ATO.
Yeah.
If we were on ATO,
Things
like this would not happen.
Yeah. So again, thank you, Chair. That was the second point. It's ATO is why we need to get back into ATO. If we want to reduce human factor issues at Metro, there's one thing to do, ATO. And it's why it's the safest way to operate trains anywhere in the world.
And why the system was built to operate on ATO.
Yeah.
What's preventing ATO?
Well, we're moving that direction. So ADO, automatic door operation now, is in certification on the red line. As soon as that's complete, we'll go into full door operation on the red line. So that we're pretty close to that. Then we'll move that automatic door operation to the other lines. Once that's complete, then we're going to go back into trying to get the safety certification done for full automatic train operation. So we split it purposely. It's a easier sequence to get done. But also, you saw on the slide, we expect to save, not only will the system be safer, more reliable for customers, we expect that it'll save $5 to $10 million to run an ATO as well. So we're working collaboratively with the WMSC. I'm very optimistic that we'll be back into automatic train operation. Again, we're working it piece by piece. So Red Line is right in, like literally, there's probably a train out there doing automatic door operation right at this moment. I think we're probably about 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks left, I think, on the testing for Red Line, I believe. And as soon as that's done, Red Line will be in operation. Then we're moving to the next couple lines, the next couple lines. So the team's working on it every day.
And on the budget,
Yep.
where would you say you are right now? I mean, we have the $750 million number, right? But that seems to keep moving with things that are coming and going. I mean, where are you in terms of your talks with other people and jurisdictions and your optimism level? Like, where do you guys think you are in terms of closing that budget gap?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start here.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So one, we're not going to be at 750, right? Because we have a one-time savings. So we started at 750 in June because that was before the year-end close. We also, before we got our efficiency task force, so to Tom's point, we've been able to save a lot of administrative money, put that in the bucket. We're cautiously optimistic on the inflationary pressures that we can more set a 3.5% inflationary growth versus 5. That's another piece. We are showing the board and ultimately the public options around fare and service. All the service options are bad. Even the stuff that's targeted, so smaller, everyone dislikes those as well because they actually impact people and therefore they impact the community. I actually would say we're probably from the process a third of the way through in the sense of process. So again, multiple updates. We're gonna have another in November, then I'll do my proposed budget to the board in December, and then there's the community process, deliberations. So that's the process. On the, if you will, I don't want to call it the political side, but the stakeholder jurisdictional side, I think we're past the third process for sure. The chair mentioned great conversations with Virginia the last couple of weeks. So I feel, I think, a little more confidence. We keep having those discussions. We're doing that in Maryland and DC. I think it's pretty clear. We have universal agreement that Metro is important for this region, and no one wants to see this thing fail because they know once this thing fails, the region fails. It's just, that's how it works. I think now there's a legislative process and their calendars and how the alignment works there. So I don't know. I appreciate the leadership that a lot of people are starting to show. And I think our message is we just need to keep the urgency down because every week that goes by, we need that certainty. So.
And I think that's a really important point. I think the message now, Adam, is finally getting through to folks that, okay, this is a real issue. They've seen the information. You know, it appears to be doom and gloom for some folks, but it's reality. And these are stark times for this. I think they understand that there's a short-term fix here, but they've got to continue the discussion. That's the point that Randy and I drove home this last week with the Senate and House in Virginia. You know, we can't just stop, you know, at 25 and thinking, okay, we're done. We've got to continue to have that discussion about a long-term fix. The capital side is just as urgent, you know, and it's going to be bumped up. We've got major projects that are essential to this organization that we have to continue, that we have to execute. But I've been encouraged by the work the GM and the team has done to interact with the jurisdictions because you see a lot of activity happening now in Virginia, in Maryland, in the district. They've engaged properly. They're all working hard on this. They have teams and others working on it. COG also has some groups working with the CAOs and the city managers on the Virginia side particularly, but the state officials. So there's a lot happening right now, and I think people understand the urgency of this. And as the manager said, you know, the chair of the Virginia House Transportation Committee, who's from Southern Virginia, said point blank that Metro is vital and we have to address this issue.
Yeah.
I mean, those were his exact words.
Yeah.
So people get it.
Yeah. So I'll just wrap that part up, which is, you know, we have to get more and more information out, and I think we're proud of what we're doing. We're trying to be transparent, and therefore it's a policy discussion for this region to have. And universally, everyone more or less says we don't want to have those negativities because we know our region's still coming out of the pandemic and recovery, right? And we cannot have a regional recovery without a healthy metro. So, you know, if you look at the DMV as a whole, if you call it the 3 state budgets, $750 million represents 0.5% of the budgets of the 3 states. To give you contextually what's going on, right? And we need to get to a structural solve, whether we do it in a 2-phase, 1 or 2 years, and then the structural. But one way or the other, to the chair's point, there is no FY25 solve, and the game is over. So I think our job is to run the system well, grow ridership, get our projects done on time, on budget, and show people that we are worth that investment. And I think we're doing pretty well at that. And we hope that will show, the confidence to keep it going.
And why this is important is, as Mr. Latrino mentioned in the meeting, everyone thinks that this was going to be Metro to fix. We provide the information, we do what we can to educate folks, but it's really all those other groups that are really going to be the ones that are going to get down and ultimately decide what happens. So that's why this engagement by Randy and the team here at WMATA and all that they've done is, and board members, the work they've done is to really help people to get to that solution.
Yeah. Good, how you doing?
Hey, good to see you all.
You too.
Couple
Don't
questions.
see you during the week much.
You're in good hands with these gentlemen. Question about the Hill. We have covered a number of meetings, the Republican House majority, that is zeroed in on the District of Columbia issues like local issues like crime. But when it comes to Metro, it's basically been radio silence. Are you concerned at all? Now we just saw a very fiscally conservative House Speaker elected yesterday, that there is going to be a receptive ear to the need of the federal government to step up to the plate and do its part on Metro funding?
You want to go first or me?
Why don't you talk about your meeting?
Sure. To be honest, I had a great meeting just 2 days ago with an important member of Congress with 4 or 5 other transit CEOs around the country. Very receptive to how we got to move this program forward, talking about operating funding as well. Of course, that's one voice, but a voice that I think matters in the conversation. Our job's not to be political at Metro. Our job is to present facts and let policymakers make decisions. So we have a fantastic delegation here that not only cares about Metro, they care about transit holistically. They understand the value of it. They are out there fighting for it. The federal government put billions of dollars into COVID relief money across the transit industry, but we have to have an honest conversation. These transit systems are vital for the GDP of not only the region, but of America. These large cities drive the American economy. So we are going to have a conversation. I think we also got to be pragmatic that right now, the Hill is not probably overly focused on transit. I mean, there's 2 wars. Federal government's potentially going to shut down in like a couple weeks. Our job, kind of back to what I said earlier, if we run the system well, more and more people use the system, that creates more and more opportunity to have those conversations. If we don't run the system well and we have other issues, it creates an easy excuse not to have the conversation. So that's kind of where we're focused and engaging with everyone we can on the Hill to explain the importance of Metro.
And I think the important piece here is we have a very supportive federal delegation. Randy and I have met with the 4 senators, with the mayor, with our congressional representatives in the region. They are all extremely supportive, regardless of their party, and they understand the importance of Metro and the investment that this region has in Metro, and they're not going to walk away from that. And they're doing everything they can to help us at the federal and state level.
Yeah, I think it's more bipartisan than many people think. Yeah. Transit infrastructure investment in lots of parts all over America you'll see ribbon cuttings with a lot of people across the spectrum. People understand the value of these investments. There's no question about it. We also have to show that we're being fiscally disciplined and running the organization well. And I think when we show that transparency, it goes a long way.
Well, everybody likes to have a pair of big scissors. If I can, given what people have been talking about with the $750 million, you have floated ideas of big plans to expand Metro, that could radically change it, the Georgetown proposal. Could you explain to folks why, in a time of fiscal austerity that you find yourselves in right now, why is it important to start looking at projects like this, to look for ways to bring in more access points into Metro?
Yeah, well, I guess what I would start on there is we got to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time. If you don't plan for the future, you're never going to have a future, period, right? So someone planned, it took 60 years to get the Silver Line to Dulles. It doesn't turn on a dime. So we need to be positioned for how this region wants to continue to grow, right? You'll have a little bit of a transit network for a region, excuse me, much smaller than what we have today. We have activity centers that are pretty robust, not served well enough by transit, no question about it. We have a lot of regional operators that are probably not integrated to the level they need to be. I think, you see a lot of things going on in Maryland right now, thinking about MARC trains and a lot more MARC service. Excuse me. VRE, major investment in the Commonwealth of Virginia to do more passenger rail between Richmond all the way through Union Station into Maryland. I mean, our region, despite, some challenging headwinds, is one of the best places in the world to live, work, and play. It's only going to continue to grow. So, I think we need to be able to show that there is a vision in front of us as a region. Quite frankly, I think we need, as a region, to come together for more visioning. There's not enough visioning right at the moment, I think. We need to be kind of thinking about what the whole region looks like in 2040, 2050. At the same time, we got to think about how we keep the lights on next year and keep that going. So that's kind of why we're looking at it that way. It's not like we're out saying we're going to build a Georgetown Metro next week, but if we never talk about it, we never will.
And that's important because we're hearing that from the jurisdictions. They're planning for their futures. And, without that planning, it goes nowhere. And we are not going to be the board that is going to abandon that kind of planning that, I think you could argue maybe this organization did in the past, put things off. And, we see the results of this and a lot of things that we're having to catch up on. So we're not going to be the board that does away with that. So.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Great. Oh, yeah. Justin, any questions?
No, you answered it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Justin. Okay, thanks, everyone. Good seeing you all today.